Welcome to the amazing world of speed and engineering, an era when the sports machine didn't just compete, it conquered. By the close of the 1960s, the brutal, beautiful prototypes challenging the limits at classics like Le Mans, the Targa Florio, Daytona Sebring, and the Nürburgring were faster, more technologically advanced, and far more awe-inspiring than anything seen in Grand Prix racing. Sports car racing always charted its own course, an intense crucible of engineering prowess and human courage. The years spanning 1970 and 1971 are remembered as its absolute peak, a glorious period defined by sheer audacity and raw power. Drivers like Pedro Rodriguez and Joe Siffert weren't just fast, they were mythological figures pushing titanium and aluminum to breaking points, creating a racing folklore that endures to this day. The machines, the impossibly light and powerful Porsche 917 and the thunderous massive V8-powered McLarens that dominated the savage Can-Am series, still inspire wonder and reverence. This narrative takes us deep into those championship years, viewed through the lens of John Wyer's Gulf Oil-sponsored Porsche team, a partnership forged in necessity and defined by brilliance. In sports car racing, unlike the driver-centric Grand Prix circuit, the car itself held the spotlight. Success on the endurance circuits was a direct marketing tool. In the 1950s, marques like Jaguar, Ferrari, Mercedes, and Aston Martin used their victories to promote and sell their road cars, linking victory with brand integrity. Ferrari stood as the perennial cornerstone of the early 1960s. That dominance, however, was shattered when negotiations for Ford to acquire Ferrari collapsed. In response, the American giant unleashed a torrent of resources into what became the most expensive, focused racing program ever undertaken, the GT40. Their singular, almost vengeful objective was to defeat Ferrari at Le Mans. Ford achieved this monumental goal, with the Anglo-American project securing victory in 1966, and the all-American duo of Dan Gurney and A.J. Foyt triumphing in 1967. Having accomplished its mission, Ford withdrew. This is where the story of John Wyer truly begins. Wyer, who had previously led Aston Martin to their 1959 Le Mans victory, was deeply involved in the GT40 project. By 1968, his organization, JW Automotive Engineering, took over the GT40 campaign, dressed in the now iconic light blue and orange Gulf Oil livery, securing two more Le Mans victories in 1968 and 1969. Meanwhile, Porsche, long content with smaller class victories, decided the time was ripe for the overall prize. The regulations were technically designed to prevent immense power, but Porsche essentially dared the governing body, building 25 examples of the massive 4.5-liter air-cooled 917, a production scale unheard of for such a radical prototype. Raw speed, however, proved insufficient. The early 917 was terrifyingly unstable. Porsche, impressed by Wyer's ability to extract wins from the aging GT40, made the pivotal decision to hand over their factory team management to Wyer's British operation. The true moment of transformation occurred at a test session at Zeltweg. Drivers complained bitterly about the 917's dangerous handling. In a moment of pure, decisive audacity, team manager John Horsman, alongside his key mechanics, ignored protocol. They took a set of tin snips, literally attacking the 917's long tail, cutting away nearly the entire structure and rebuilding it on the spot with aluminum sheets and self-tapping screws. The resulting short-tail 917 was immediately 3 seconds a lap, quicker and stable. This decisive act of brutal engineering solidified the partnership: German power, American funding, and uncompromising British management. The 1970 season opened with the Daytona 24 Hours. The Gulf team felt the immense pressure of their new alliance. The Rodriguez-Kinnunen pairing ran what was essentially a textbook race, faultless and dominating. The sister car, driven by Siffert and Redman, suffered through myriad issues: brake hose failure, a broken shock absorber, and a clutch replacement. After these lengthy, morale-sapping stops, Siffert was simply told, "Go out and go as fast as you like." The Swiss driver, renowned for his flair and flat-out style, responded with a blistering performance, weaving through traffic, passing the Ferrari 512 of Mario Andretti, and snatching second place. The relationship was off to an electrifying, if politically complex, start. The high point was short-lived. The Sebring 12-hour race exposed a catastrophic failure in communication and engineering. Porsche had redesigned the front hub assembly, and though testing indicated a serious fault, the news was not communicated to Wyer in time to implement a fix. The Gulf Porsches led easily until the hubs began to shatter. Siffert's hub failed first, costing 30 minutes. Rodriguez's followed. He fought back to the lead, but with just 20 minutes left in the 12-hour marathon, his final hub failed. The crew, now practiced, changed it in a near-impossible 9 minutes and 20 seconds, but the damage was done. They finished fourth. The race was inherited by the Ferrari 512. Wyer later reflected that while Sebring was a massive disappointment, they learned more from that failure than any win, identifying a critical flaw in the internal communication process that was immediately rectified. The correction was immediately evident at Brands Hatch in England. New, reliable hubs were installed, and the stage was set for one of the greatest drives in sports car history. Rain swept across the Kent circuit in sheets. Early in the race, Rodriguez was penalized after missing a yellow flag following an accident. He was called in, admonished by the clerk of the course, and then, in a defiant roar, he left the pits and commenced the race of his life. Losing nearly a full lap, the Mexican driver carved through the field, the 917 a controlled blur in the torrential spray. Within 20 laps, he had regained the lead, never to look back. It was a performance that forever cemented his title. The Rain Master. The World Championship then moved to the high-speed tracks. At Monza, Wyer made a crucial strategic call, sticking with the older, proven 4.5-liter engine, despite Porsche debuting a new 5.0-liter version. Rodriguez and Kinnunen were forced to fight against four-factory Ferrari 512s, which now had a 5-liter advantage. Rodriguez drove at a blistering average speed exceeding 144 mm to secure the win, a testament to his tenacity and the reliability of the older specification. This was followed by the utterly unique challenge of the Targa Florio, a 70-kilometer road circuit weaving through the heart of Sicilian villages and terrifying mountain passes. It was an environment closer to a high-speed rally than a circuit race, a factor that played perfectly into the hands of rally specialist Leo Kinnunen. The race was a confusing battle against the clock due to the staggered start times and primitive communications. Siffert and Redman were initially unaware of their true position, but executed a brilliant, desperate charge in the closing stages to take a magnificent victory. The season continued its momentum at the frighteningly fast Spa-Francorchamps, where the short-tail 917s were perfectly suited. Siffert and Rodriguez engaged in a furious lead-swapping duel until Rodriguez was forced out with a cracked gearbox. Siffert and Redman coasted to victory, but Rodriguez had the final word, setting a new lap record 9 seconds faster than the reigning Formula One record, at an astonishing average of 257 km/h. These were, without question, the fastest circuit racing machines in the world. Then came the grand finale, Le Mans. Wyer's belief that the better handling of the 917K, short tail, outweighed the top speed of the more aerodynamically slippery long tail was unwavering. He was ultimately proven correct regarding the long tail's instability. However, 1970 Le Mans was a complete disaster for the Gulf team. Rodriguez's crankshaft failed early. Halewood crashed in the heavy rain. Siffert, leading comfortably, mistimed a downshift while overtaking a backmarker and violently destroyed his engine. Despite the Gulf collapse, Porsche secured the championship through the victory of the other factory team, the Salzburg 917. Wyer later admitted it was their worst race, but stood by their strategic choices. The year ended at Watkins Glen, where the intense rivalry between Siffert and Rodriguez boiled over with a start-line collision. Rodriguez claimed the endurance victory, but Siffert gained significant financial reward by competing in the separate wealthy Can-Am race, underscoring the shift in racing economics. The Can-Am series, which thrived between 1966 and 1973, was a pure, unadulterated spectacle of speed. It was the wildest and richest series, largely devoid of rules, allowing engineers and drivers to create monstrous machines with massive rear wings and huge American V8 engines. From 1967, the New Zealanders Denny Hume and Bruce McLaren established a crushing dominance with their Chevrolet V8-powered machines. By 1969, with the Ultimate M8B, they won every single round. Drivers like Peter Revson attested to the terrifying power and sheer traction of these cars, which often required the entire chassis to be rebuilt to handle the stress. Tragedy struck the McLaren empire in 1970 when team leader Bruce McLaren was killed testing the new M8D. Despite this devastating loss, and Denny Hulme suffering severe burns, Hulme recovered and, with Dan Gurney's help, secured the 1970 title. The following year, with the new 8-liter, 740-horsepower M8F, Peter Revson joined the team, securing McLaren's 5th consecutive title. Hulme, speaking later, called the Can-Am cars the most exciting he had ever driven. The formula was virtually free. The harder you pushed your foot down, the faster the things went. You never really found out the optimum just exactly how fast they could go. The 1971 season was the last hurrah for the big prototypes. Porsche engineers produced the ultimate long tail, the 1970's, a technological marvel capable of 380 km/h. Jackie Oliver set a sensational lap record. Despite Wyer's high hopes, the race was a repeat of the 1970 disaster. The nemesis, the rear hub assembly, failed on both leading Gulf longtails. The car of Rodriguez and Oliver was eventually retired with engine failure after a burst oil hose. The final victory for a 917 at Le Mans went to the Martini team's older K model. The collaboration between Gulf, Wyer, and Porsche concluded, having achieved 11 victories in 17 championship races. The Matra era dawned in 1972, following the CSI's mandatory shift to 3-liter prototypes, effectively banning the 917. The French, powered by their magnificent V12 engine, were determined to reclaim the Le Mans crown. Matra achieved its aim in 1972 with Henri Pescarolo and Graham Hill, marking the first French victory in 22 years. They followed this with back-to-back triumphs in 1973 and 1974, the latter being the last Le Mans for John Wyer, who ran the prototype Mirage Cosworths. Wyer's longtime colleague, John Horseman, remembered Wyer as a man of extreme logic, always willing to change a decision if a night of contemplation revealed a better path. The introduction of the turbocharger in 1976 breathed new life into Le Mans. Porsche adapted quickly, entering the 2.1-liter 936 Spyders. They faced a strong challenge from the Alpine Renault 442. The Porsche of Jackie Ickx and Gers van Lennep secured the win, the first for a turbocharged car. The 1977 race became Ickx's legend. Renault was dominating, running 1-2-3. In a desperate high-stakes move, Porsche put Ickx into the struggling sister car. Ickx drove with inhuman speed, carving through the field as the Renaults one by one succumbed to engine failure. With just an hour remaining, the leading Porsche broke a piston. The team waited until the final 10 minutes, sending the engineer Jürgen Barth out to crawl for the final 2 laps. The crippled Ickx-Barth-Haywood Porsche was declared the winner, securing Ickx's 4th title and confirming his status as the race's true master. Renault finally achieved their long-sought victory in 1978, but the drama never ceased. The following year, with Renault absent, the focus fell on the privateers. Hollywood star Paul Newman, racing with Dick Barber and Rolf Stommelen, finished an astonishing second in a Porsche 935 K3, bringing unprecedented mainstream publicity. The spirit of these endurance classics, the sheer variety, the engineering intrigue, the inevitable drama, and the ultimate high-stakes payoff never faded. The era defined by the Porsche 917 and the Can-Am McLarens set a standard of speed and spectacle that continues to influence and inspire motorsport, ensuring that the battles fought on the circuits of the 1970s remain the absolute golden standard of sports car racing. The final year, 1971. Le Mans and beyond. Image. The 917 Longtail L, aerodynamic and futuristic, contrasted with the boxier 917K. Narrator. The Gulf Porsche team started the 1971 season well, but the focus was on the final Le Mans for the big cars. Porsche engineers had produced the ultimate longtail, the 917L, a machine capable of 300 km/h, 236 mph on the Mulsanne Straight. Jackie Oliver lapped the circuit at a sensational average speed of 248 km/h. Narrator. Wyer's team entered 2 of these longtails and 1 short-tail 917K. Hopes were high. The longtails were blisteringly fast, But their old nemesis, the rear hub assembly, reappeared, cracking on both leading cars. The older 917K, driven by Atwood and Miller of the Martini team, fought back dramatically after its own gearbox troubles to finish second. The victory went to the Martini 9117 of Marco and Lennep. Narrator: the partnership between Gulf Wire and the Porsche factory was now ending. In 2 championship years, they had secured 11 victories in 17 races, a legacy cemented forever. Matra, restoring French honor. Image: the Matra V12 screaming, a high-pitched wail as it flies past the grandstands. French flags waving. Narrator: in 1972, the new 3-liter rules came into force, effectively banning the 917. The French company Matra, with their potent V12 engine, was determined to win Le Mans for the glory of the Republic. Narrator: in 1972, the Matras were unassailable. Henri Pescarolo and Graham Hill won, marking the first French victory since 1950. Narrator: 1973 was a dramatic duel with Ferrari, but Matra was stronger. Pescarolo and Gérard Larousse won again. 1974 brought a Matra hat-trick of victories. The relentless French effort achieved its goal. John Horsman, on Wyer's exit. John was going into semi-retirement. His greatest strength was his very logical mind. He'd think things through, lie awake all night, and come back in the morning and change his decision. And he was usually right. He was very well respected. Drivers listened to him. In those days, they drove more for pleasure than for money. The dawn of the turbo era. ICX's dominance. Image: Porsche 936, a low, sleek, Group 6 prototype, the distinct look of the early turbo cars. Narrator: Le Mans 1976 threw the race open to a wider variety of cars and saw the rise of the turbocharger. Porsche entered the 2.1-liter 936 Spiders. They battled the works Alpine Renault 442. The Porsche of Jackie Ickx and Gijs van Lennep took the lead and held it despite a lengthy pit stop, securing the first win for a turbocharged car at Le Mans. Narrator: Le Mans 1977 became one of the most exciting and dramatic races ever. Alpine Renault was dominant, running first, second, and third. Porsche management made a quick, decisive move. Jackie Ickx was moved into the struggling sister car of Jürgen Barth and Hurley Haywood. Narrator: in Ickx's hands, the Porsche began to fly. One by one, the Renaults fell victim to engine failures. But with only an hour to go, the leading Porsche came in. A piston had broken. With no time for a full rebuild, they waited until 10 minutes from the end, sending the engineer Barth out for the final 2 laps. The crippled Ickx-Barth-Haywood Porsche was declared the winner. Narrator: it was Ickx's 4th victory, equaling the record of Olivier Gendebien. Narrator: in 1978, the battle was joined again between Porsche and a massive 4-car Alpine Renault effort. Ickx's incredible driving kept the 936 in contention after repeated gearbox issues, but ultimately the French prevailed. The Alpine Renault A443 of Pironi and Josso secured the historic French victory. Renault had achieved its goal and stepped away, focusing on Formula One. Image: Paul Newman in the cockpit of a Porsche 935. Hollywood meets high-speed grit. Narrator: Le Mans 1979 was a Porsche benefit. The star-studded entry of Paul Newman, perhaps the most talented actor-driver of all time, finished second in a Porsche 935 K3, bringing unprecedented publicity to the sport. The race was won by the privately entered 935 K3 of Ludwig and the Whittington brothers.